because it just does have a few complicated things in here. Well, not super complicated, but you can go through them really fast. And I had to repeat it about 5 times for our folks in the other section. They often get chatting and don't listen to me. I don't know why that is. So, out on the internet, there's not only river data available to you, there is data regarding any sort of material or surveys on all sorts of information, financial information. How many of you are in a business program? Did anybody do a business program? If you were in a business that needed to know, when should we buy our supplies? When should we invest in something? Or you're a farmer. What's the best time to buy the seed or get some materials? Well, out on the internet, you can find all sorts of data. And we're going to just look at one place where we can have data. It's sort of interesting because we live right by this big river, the Mississippi. And I thought it'd be fun to let's learn how to get data off the internet and actually use Excel. We're going to graph the data that we find out there. So here's where we have available data. I found data when COVID came. I found data on the COVID. How many hospitalizations? To me, hospitalizations what was mattered. It didn't matter how many people proved positive. It's how many got sent to the hospital. And I found a website that showed me hospitalization numbers that people were reporting state by state, and I could watch that curve, and I could see that New York's curve was going up, and that maybe meant in a few weeks Dubuque's curve or Iowa's curve might be going up. I think I did it by state, but they did offer state by state, country by country, and I could graph it. Unfortunately, this site, I believe, if I remember right, it was graphing it for you. But you could grab the data and graph it yourself, and that's what I want you to have the capability to do. To be able to find any information on the internet. In this case, we're going to graph it. Other cases, you might look for other interesting information in there. It's called data mining. In any field of research, you can mine data about that and learn about your subject, or learn perhaps to take advantage of financial situations in elections. You can see how the votes are going. So click on this, available from the USGS, after going to the homework section, Excel River Data Analysis. So take me there, and I end up over here in the U.S. Geological Survey. It's supposed to be taking me there. Come on. There. It's not clicked enough times. And it gives you a map of the United States. And I think in my link, if you notice here, I think I asked only for misinformation about the Mississippi. If you look up on that URL, you will see...
Mr. Manning?
Yeah.
We all get your connection is not private message, and we can't open it.
Very good. That is... So you want to click... can you click past that and say, go there anyway?
Actually, no, that goes back. No.
Let me bring it up in another browser and see if I can get that to happen. Because I think if you go past it the first time, say take me there anyway, ignore all the warnings. Let me select that and see what it shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might have to click advanced settings and say take me there anyway. Let me try with this browser. Yeah, you'll get this. Go and in this is Firefox. You just go to advanced and then go down here and say accept the risk and continue. This is a kind of a little nerdy thing, but the deal is it says it's a secure site, but it hasn't registered with the people that say, yeah, you really are secure. We're going to say you're legit. So there's a thing called the security key. I think what's happened is our government on this site has I think you have to renew it once a year, and they have not renewed their registration with the keepers of the internet to say, yes, this is a legit and still a safe site. So your browser sees that, and it gives you the little crosshatch through the HTTPS. That means, yeah, it is encrypted, but the key that they gave us may not mean it's a legit site. But we're trusting it. because I've gone to this site before. If you want to know more about all those nerdy things, join the CIS program and you learn about all that in your major. Really great stuff. Okay, we're going to zoom in here on our map, keep the Mississippi in view, because these little markers are data collecting stations along the Mississippi. And let's go up to Dubuque here, zoom in a little bit more to Dubuque. And you see the two markers along the Mississippi River, north of Dubuque by a few miles. They don't have one right near Dubuque, but they do have one upriver from Dubuque, and that's really good to know that if there's a flood or something, we want to know before it gets to Dubuque. And if you go further down, you'll see there isn't one for a long way until you hit St. Louis, and then you have a few markers tracking the river. So we're going to go to this first one as I zoom in here. We're going to go to this first one here. It is at Clayton, Iowa. Clayton, Iowa, upriver from us. Click on that little tab, or that little marker, and it will give you information about the site. It's Mississippi at Clayton, Iowa.
How far do you want to scroll? Yeah.
To what?
The markers?
Yeah, the one above Dubuque.
Okay.
The one north of Dubuque. The first one you hit north of Dubuque. There's another one up there, as I Prairie du Chien, I believe.
Okay.
But we want to go to this one. They're probably very similar. We could even get data from both. But this is the kind of thing you can find out on the internet. Data. Now, I've done a little searching for you because I thought there ought to be something out there. I go to a camp in Tennessee, and they're always watching the Duck River height because that determines whether or not they can go canoeing that day. Well, let's go ahead and click on Clayton, and we want to get the data, see what they have for data there. Click on the Access Data link. It takes me to another page. And if I scroll down a bit here, I see the location information, where it is, the hydrologic unit number. Your drain, 79,000 square miles. We're at about 600 feet above, I'm assuming that's sea level, NAV D88. But what we want to look for is daily data on the statistics of the river. And let's see here. They have data from 1992 to 2021 yesterday. So let's go ahead and click Daily Data on the Clayton, Iowa stream site. And they pop you down. You can scroll down here to a display data for certain amount of parameters. By default, it's giving you a little graph of the last year of data. Well, let's choose, and what we want to do is we want to bring this data into Excel and graph it ourselves to know that we can actually do this in Excel. But in order to do that, we need to get the data into Excel. So, in this little menu here, I can choose the data for it to send to me. Now, I want to do the graphing myself, so I don't want any of the graph output formats. I want either a table or a tab separated output format. By playing with this, I realized the table doesn't make it so easy, so I want the tab separated output format. And I can choose the begin and end date. By default, it's a year's worth of data. Let's get 3 years worth of data. So instead of going 2020, 1102, let's change the 2020 to 2019. So I got 19 to 20. Oh, let's do 2018. I want 3 years, not 2 years. So let's do 2018 to 2021. So I'm going to get 3 years worth of daily data on the Mississippi River discharge. That means the water amount, the volume of water, and the height of the water. And it's going to give me tab separated values. And we'll find out what that means when we try to bring it into Excel. So tab separated, begin 2018, 1102, 2021, 1102, and now when I click go, it will show me all that data. And it looks like it has the date and a number, but I don't see discharge. I just see this number. So that gets me a little confused. Maybe this represents discharge in gallons, but they're all the same. So that can't be discharge. So I'm a little confused. It looked like it was going to show me two things, but I'm only getting one column of meaningful numbers. Problem is, I need to bring these numbers into Excel so I can graph them. Now I could scroll all the way down and I see, well, I have this long list of numbers all the way down to the bottom of my web page. I can shrink the web page a little bit so I can see the bottom of the page here on the screen. Shrink my screen a little bit. There we go. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom and I see, yeah, it ends at that line. Well, in order to bring them into Excel for graphing, I need to start, I'm going to do a copy-paste into Excel. Now, when I first did this, I had all the students save this data using Control-S, and it lets you save this data to a file. And I could call it River Data Clayton.txt. The problem is, I have to go edit that file because it has this goofy stuff at the top, and then I can go to Excel and import it. But here's an easier way. We used to do that, save it as a text file and import it, but it's easier just to select through the numbers, starting at the first row of numbers that contain my river height. I think that's river height. Scroll all the way to the bottom and shift select the very last line. And then we're just going to do copy paste into Excel. Saves you all that time, saving it to a file, editing the file, importing a file. I can just do copy paste. So now I'm going to do a Control-C copy. And now I need to fire up Excel to let Excel do some graphing for me. So now I fire up Excel. Start a blank worksheet. And I'm going to paste the data into the upper left cell A1. Control-V paste. I'm going to rename my sheet. I'm going to call that Clayton River Data. Clayton River Data. See how I can just double click my tab, rename that worksheet. Now if I want to graph this, I've got a problem. Because notice, when I click on cell A1, all the data is in cell A1. If I double click the border of A1, I'll see that it's all in there. And if I want to graph that number, well, I can't get to it. It's all this one long piece of data on every line. I need to somehow break this up. So watch carefully now. If I select column A by clicking in the gray at the top, I can go to my Data tab on the top, and I can click Text to Columns. We're going to let Excel divide this up into separate columns. Watch how easy this is. Text to Columns.
But
Yeah.
I don't know if we did it differently, but ours didn't. Oh, you're saying to join the 5 columns together into one?
They are already joined into
Oh,
one.
ours didn't.
What?
Yeah, double tap A.
Are you sure?
Oh, yes, I see.
It fools you. It makes you think that they're in separate columns because
It's
columns B,
yeah.
C, and D sure look like they're in there. But when you click on the column A, you can see, wait a minute, that's all in cell A1. And again, if you double click on the border of A1 and between A and B, you'll see, what? They put it in all stuffed into the A column. That's why we wanted to select column A and click Text to Columns. Now, I didn't copy the top row, but it's not a fixed width. I can click Delimited and see if we can get Excel to split that data for us. So I click Delimited, that characters such as commas or tabs or spaces are what's separating out what should be different columns. Then I click Next, and it normally tries to guess that, hey, there's a tab possibly separating it. Well, I don't see anything separating the columns, but if I click space here in the checkbox, look at that. It's recognizing, oh, if you had me define spaces and put column separators there, look at the columns that it would give us. That's exactly what we want. So convert text to column is basically helping you figure out, can it automatically separate this into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. That looks good, so I click next. And I do see treat consecutive spaces as 1. I click next, and it's asking me, well, how should I treat these columns? Should I format them as numbered or stuff? We'll leave it as general because we can graph numbers that are in general format. So I click finish, and lo and behold, now I have column A, I'm going to autofit column C containing the date that the data was collected. So we have gone from data on the internet in this format to columns in an Excel table. Now, just for fun, I'm going to go back a step and see, what if I had asked for table format, that same date span, and then click go. See what I would get. In this case, it gives me a table of data, and we tried a copy paste, and it doesn't seem to be copying and pasting the way I would want. There I could sort of copy paste. Let's see if I could copy paste it from a table, just for fun. I'm going to start at the first row here. What if I start dragging through that and then all the way to the bottom of that table, and shift click there and did a copy, and come back to Excel. Let's just see in an experimental extra sheet if I did a paste there. Well, look at that. It did give me the date and the height, but it's got this little A in there. I'm not sure what that little A thing is going to do to me. I think that might mess up my calculations. And it might not graph that right because it's got this added A. But I see that it actually did put it into separate cells with even the colors copied. But I'm not sure I have all the data I need. Now let's see how far we got. It took me down to 1097, is that? 1097. On the first one, the first worksheet, let's resize that a little bit. It took me down to, how far does it go? 1097. So it looks like I got the same number of measurements. So you had two ways. One, if the copy paste works, I get that from a table, but if I copy paste it from text, I can then split it into columns. So now you know two ways to pull in data from websites. Oh, actually you know three ways, because you could do the save and then edit the file and then import it. We won't worry about the import part of them because we want to do the graphing part. We'll let you worry about the import part later. Now it's time to graph. Now I don't want to graph these columns. These numbers are what's interesting. Just occurred to me, I'm going to try a lazy way. What if I just select through columns C and D? Would that give me the graph, even though I didn't go all the way down and stop at line 1097? Let's see what happens. Let's go to Insert, and let's see what charts it recommends. Well, looky there, it recommends a line chart with dates across the bottom. That looks like a decent looking graph. Let's click OK. I didn't even have to scroll down to line 1097, and let's see, did it automatically know to stop at, look at that, it knew to stop at 1097 when I selected those numbers, and it gives me a lovely chart. Let's give it a title. We'll call it call it Mississippi River Height. Mississippi. I think in the South they call it the Mississippi. And it's there, but I don't want to have having it sitting here. I want to put it on a separate worksheet. Remember how we can move a chart? I can right-click, move chart, and you have to right-click at the top of it. If you right-click here, it's in the middle of the data and thinks you want to do something else. If you want to move it, you have to right-click up at the top of the chart. Then you get the move chart to show up. And let's move it to a new worksheet, and let's call it the name River Data Chart, or River Data Graph. River Data Graph. One thing that happens when you put it on a new worksheet, you can zoom in and out, but you can't stretch it left and right. Let me see if I put it back on this worksheet. Let's see if we're back on the river data. If I pasted it here, I think I can stretch it out left and right. So that's one issue with making it a separate worksheet. It kind of fixes your stretching out capabilities. I just was noticing that the last time. Here, if it's in a separate worksheet, it doesn't let me stretch it left and right. It's kind of nice to do, like I could do on this worksheet. Stretch it out, zoom in a little bit on the dates. But we'll go back to this worksheet because I want you to see with these graphs, anything that you have a line chart of, you can hover over any piece on the graph and it shows you what the measurement is at that point and what the date was at that point. So you can say, hey, what happened here? Did we have a flood back in April 27th, 2019? Got pretty high in Dubuque. I don't know what the flood level is in Dubuque, but looks like we were pretty high. Normal height is around 10 to 15. So yeah, that's almost 10 foot higher. I bet you there was a flood going on there. And this was the next year, around April. We had another little spike. And this spring wasn't as interesting. We had a few small spikes. Now those might have been snow melt-off. I'm guessing beginning of the year snow melt-off. We look at the dates associated with that. Yeah, around 3 to 5 in the spring, we get the spikes. Now this one, we had a spike back in, what month was that? Oh, why isn't it just giving me the data? Hover, there. I don't know why it didn't show up. Back in October of 2019, there was a flood. So some interesting data across 3 years. Well, let's gather data from somewhere else on the river, and let's compare it to this chart. Just first of all, to give us a repeat of doing this, so we have some practice at it, and we can compare how it behaved over past years somewhere else. So let's go back to our graph, and let's check. I think we want to, yeah, we want one from above Dubuque, and we want one from around St. Louis. All right, so let's go to St. Louis and get data from down there. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Grab the map, scroll down, zoom out a little bit more so I see the river. Follow the river down. Quincy, Illinois, where my sister lives. And zoom in a little bit around St. Louis. There's a couple gauges there in St. Louis. Now let's see, what rivers do we have coming in here? We got the mighty Missouri coming in from the west. And they meet there. That's what made St. Louis famous. Let's see what gauges we have just before the Mississippi River hits the Missouri. Because once it hits the Missouri, it's going to get higher, and whatever the Missouri was doing is going to affect our data. So let's see before it meets the Missouri. If we click on this, and I go to access the data at Alton, Illinois, let's see what data we have there. Well, we have daily height. Oh, but we got a problem with daily height there. They stopped measuring it in 2016. So I can't use the Alton, Illinois measurement. So I can close that and go back to here and choose the next gauge up. And that's that's the Grafton, Illinois. So it's on the Illinois side. Let's get that data from Grafton, Illinois. So again, practicing getting the data from some website is each website you go to might have the data in different formats. Some you'll have to download as a file, but maybe, well, often you'll be able to just copy paste it from the listing. So I'm going to go to daily data, and I see, yes, they do have it till current. Click daily data, and I do want the same time span. So let's go down to the choices here. Make it again, tab separated data that I want. And again, change the date from 2020 1102 to 2018 1102 to 2021 1102. So the same time span as our previous graph. And I can click go. And again, I'm going to select through, starting with that line, start dragging, clicking and dragging, and then let go, scroll to the bottom, shift, click to select everything between here and the last, Control C copy. If I wanted to, I could put this in a file and import it, or I'm going to do like I did before, just copy paste it into a new worksheet. So let's go to Excel. Let's make a new worksheet. Let's see, sheet 2, that was that data. I'll just leave that as Grafton table copy, just because I'm curious. I'm kind of keeping track of what it looks like if I copy pasted the table data. I'm going to make a new worksheet and paste this, and this is St. Louis. So let's name this guy St. Louis. Actually was Grafton, right? Grafton. I'll just put near St. Louis because that's more recognizable. No one's going to know where Grafton, Illinois was. St. Louis river data. Now again, you have to do the text to columns. So on the data tab with column A selected, and remember just to verify, yes, all that data is in column A. It's not in those other cells. Text to columns walks me through the same things. No, it's not fixed width. It's delimited. Spaces between the columns. Next. It remembers my last choice when I convert text to column, so I don't have to check space again. It automatically guesses that. And look, I do have other numbers in a extra column that I wasn't getting from above Dubuque. That looks like the flow, the volume of water. And I click Next. And yes, I'm going to treat all the columns as a general entry. And I click Finish. Now they're in separate columns, double-clicking on C's border, double-clicking on A's border, so they'll fit a little nicely. And what numbers do I want to graph? C and D column again. Remember, I'm going to do it the easy way. Just select through C and D. Then go to Insert. See if it recommends the same type of chart. There's the same type of chart. I'm going to click OK. And there's my chart. Let's give it, actually, I want this data, though, to be compared to that other data. Watch what I can do. This is pretty slick. I can copy my chart, selecting the chart, and do a Control-C. And then I can go to the river data graph that I did already, and watch me do a paste. Select the chart and paste. It didn't work this time. Let's try this again. Let's try paste. Uh-oh. Let's try. This worked last time. Let's do St. Louis river data. Let's do select, copy, select, select this guy and paste. Well, last time I did a cut. Let me try that. Control X and Control V. It's not pasting it like we did. Why does it work? I wonder if it's because I have a different number of column of data points. Last time when we did this, when I pasted, now it pasted it just fine. Let me do that again. I guess I have to have that. I have to cut it, select this chart, and then Control V paste. And then it pastes the data right in there for me. I'm going to try that again. I'm going to Control Z that and Control Z the cutting of it. So St. Louis River data, I'm going to try this again. I'm going to select, copy, come over here and select the chart, paste. Okay, I did it that time. I copied and pasted. I don't know why I wasn't doing it right the first time. I can copy and paste the data from the first chart. It comes right over here. Now, which is which? Now, St. Louis River data is that, and the Clayton River data is with the St. Louis is that. So St. Louis has the large spikes. It goes up to 35. Come back to here. And now it turned the Dubuque data orange, and the St. Louis data is blue. But notice, what do you notice here across the years? It wasn't nearly as interesting in 2020 to 2021. But back in, what year was that? 2019, April 2019. There must have, yeah, I think I recall there were some floods in 2019. It was high in Dubuque, but it got even higher in St. Louis. Well, we would expect the river to be higher. And notice, on average, the river in St. Louis looks like about 5 feet higher than in Dubuque. But where there's a spike in Dubuque, there's usually a spike downriver. And it seems to be not far apart. Let's check. Let's zoom in on this one here. Remember, I can hover in on the data, hover into the data, and if I hover over this part of it, that's 10/1/2019 at the peak of that, 19.26 feet. And here it's 10/16/2019, value of 22 feet. So a delay of a couple days, what was that one again? 10/10/2019 in Dubuque. In St. Louis, 10/13. So 3 days later, about, that's weird. That shows me 10/17, and I go to here and it shows me 10/20. There was a 10/13 showed up. Maybe it's because I was too far to the left. So it looks like the peaks here are delayed by a few days. That's about a delay of about 10 days. So 4 days. So for this particular spike, looks like a delay of about 4 days until St. Louis got a spike. But some of the spikes don't match. Like this was a small spike in Dubuque, big spike in St. Louis. Most of the time, notice that the data in St. Louis is smoothed over. Often when I have a spike, sometimes I get a larger spike. So someone studying the whole river lock and dam system, a graph like this would say, hey, is our lock and dam system working? It's supposed to be smoothing out the river a little bit more. So even though we might get spikes in Dubuque, later on in St. Louis, it's less variation. Well, if you look at this section of data, it sure does look smoother in St. Louis, where we had some spikes here in Dubuque. But not always. Here we have a big spike there. This is telling me there was probably rain between here and Dubuque. We got a little of the rain and had these spikes. Between here and St. Louis, there was a lot more rain, and they had some pretty healthy spikes in a whole different shape. Here's 3, here's 2 big ones. Perhaps by analyzing this data, you could figure out something's going on in the lock and dam system. Is it working the way it should? Is there something we could do scientifically or in the dam system to try to keep the spikes from Dubuque from making it all the way to St. Louis? This is your environment on the internet. We call it the age of information. Anything whatsoever that you're interested in researching or your organization or company is doing, selling or buying materials, there is information there on the internet that you could track and bring it into Excel and graph and perhaps learn something about how to manage your business. From weather patterns to prices of materials, price of energy, price of commodities. This is what people are doing in the financial world to decide When do we buy? If I know every year I'm seeing a spike here in some price, guess when I want to buy? Well, I'll probably buy right here and then sell when I'm right here. Or if I see a spike in Dubuque, I know in a couple days there's going to be a lot of water coming through St. Louis. Maybe I can do something about that. Protect my home. And I'll bet you your Department of Engineering is doing that. One only thing to do on this, let's go ahead and give it a title. Double click the title, and let's call it, or triple click the title, let's call it Mississippi River Data Analysis. The main thing for you to know is you can go to any place that has data, either download it as a file, or just copy and paste it from the web page, bring it into Excel, you can turn it into a beautiful graph. We'll be doing more of this on Friday. So save what you have, and you're done with your little activity for today, the river data analysis using Excel.
Do I have to submit this, or?
Yeah, go ahead and submit it. You can save it as last name river data. I don't know why he wants that name for it. That's weird. Remember, you can copy one graph into another, and it will merge them together into one graph. I copied that one, did a Control-C copy, came back to this one, and to this one actually, and pasted it right on top, and it merged the numbers for me. Pretty slick. There's lots of fun things you can do with your graph options. The main thing I want you to pick up from here is knowing and finding data out on the internet. Here I found it for you. But if you're doing any kind of business, the value is out there that you can discover things called data mining. There are careers in data mining. If you know how to do this kind of thing, you can help guide a business into purchasing, investing, watching out for disasters, knowing that there's a pattern out there. If you can find patterns in data, the data is out there on the internet for you to do the searching for. Yeah, once you have that uploaded, you're done for today. We'll be doing a little bit more on Friday with spreadsheets before we get into databases. Yeah.